Have you ever wondered about the hidden forces shaping our world far beyond what meets the eye? The butterfly effect is the idea where tiny causes, like a flap of a butterfly's wings in Brazil, can have huge effects, like setting off a tornado in Texas. This concept has found applications in various fields, including meteorology, physics, and yep, even money matters. For most people, the butterfly effect boils down to this: tiny choices you make every day, the ones that seem like no big deal, can actually create massive ripples in your life down the road. And why does this idea captivate us so much? Well, it tickles our brain with a question we've all wondered about. Can we really predict what's coming next? Today, we are diving deep into the science behind the butterfly effect and how it links up with economic growth. Get ready to see how a small event can kickstart a domino effect, totally changing your life's path. Welcome to Nitzero Wellth Club, the place where impactful people come to get inspired. This exciting idea, known as butterfly effect, is part of something bigger called chaos theory. Now, don't let those big words scare you off. I'm here to break it down into simple terms so that you can easily grasp the insights that can personally affect our lives and the way we see the world around us. Chaos theory is like a secret code that explains how things behave in complicated systems, like the weather, the stock market, and even our own lives. It challenges the old idea that everything follows a clear and predictable path. Instead, it shows us that even tiny, unimportant events can create huge changes, just like how a butterfly flapping its wings can set off a massive storm thousands of miles away. To truly get the butterfly effect, you need to know about something called nonlinearity. Forget about the straight cause and effect stuff you've heard before. Nonlinear systems are like wild cards. They can surprise us with unexpected twists and turns. Think about the global economy. A tweak in one place can cause a big ripple effect everywhere else. Understanding this nonlinearity helps us make sense of why things don't always go in a straight line in nature and money matters. Let's dive into a fascinating story from the 1960s. Back then, a weather scientist named Edward Lorenz wanted to play around with a computer simulation of the Earth's atmosphere. He had 12 equations and 12 variables to describe things like temperature, pressure, humidity, and so on. The computer would give him sets of numbers that showed how these things changed over time. Now, here's the cool part. One day, Lawrence took a shortcut. He used the numbers from halfway of a previous computer printout instead of starting from the very beginning. He hit the calculate button, grabbed some coffee, and waited. When he came back, he was shocked. The new numbers start out kind of like the old ones, but then they started to go their own way. Before he knew it, the computer was predicting totally different weather. Lawrence thought the computer was broken, but it wasn't. The real reason for the difference came down to the fact that the printer rounded to the 3 decimal places, whereas the computer calculated with 6. So, when he entered those initial conditions, the difference of less than one part in 1,000 made a huge difference in the long run. That's why pilots follow a rule called 1 in 60 rule. Here's what that means. If a pilot flies for 60 miles and it's off by just 1 degree in their direction, they will end up about 1 mile off track. That might not sound like a lot, but if you're flying from a place like New York to London, which is around 3,500 miles, that small mistake could land you somewhere like Petersfield, about 60 miles off from where you meant to go. Now picture this. You are planning out your future following a specific path. You put in the effort, make good choices, and stick to your plan. But then, out of no blue, something unexpected happens, like losing your job or meeting someone new. These seemingly small events can create ripples through your life, changing your direction in ways you never thought possible. Chaos theory teaches us that life is brimming with surprises. Even the tiniest actions can cause big results. It's a reminder that our world is intricate and not everything can be controlled or predicted. Remember, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond. You might be thinking, how does this connect to money and economic growth? Well, just like in our personal lives, the global economy is a complex puzzle of connections. A small shift in one place can lead to major effects on business, jobs, and prices. Understanding chaos theory can help us untangle the ups and downs of the economy and how decisions impact our financial well-being. Economic growth is a basic idea in economics. It means a country is producing more goods and services over time. We often measure it using things like gross domestic product or GDP. Traditional economic ideas assume things are stable and predictable when it comes to how inputs, outputs, and growth are related. But in reality, lots of factors can cause unexpected and hard to guess behaviors in real-world economies. The butterfly effect plays a big role in the economy in different ways. Imagine a small change in commodity prices. This little change can set off a chain reaction. It affects how things are made, how they are brought to you, and even how much things cost, consequently influencing inflation and interest rates in seemingly unrelated markets. It's like a domino effect that goes through many parts of the economy, revealing the delicate balance between stability and fragility in economic systems. Here's an example. When a company decides to make a new product, it can stimulate increased demand for certain raw materials, thereby affecting commodity prices globally. That in turn affects how other things are made and how much they cost, leading to shifts in supply chains, employment patterns, and consumer prices. It's like a web of connections. The butterfly effect also messes with the stock market. Even a tiny bit of news or small change in how people feel about the market can trigger a series of reactions that can result in significant market fluctuations, potentially affecting broader economic indicators like employment and consumer spending, which can make or break your financial health. Being a member of the Nitzero Wellth Club means you are making smart moves and avoiding these traps. That's why lots of people are subscribing to this channel, and you should too if you haven't already. In our world today, what happens in one place can quickly spread to others. So if something goes wrong in one country, it can mess things up in many other countries too. Like if money gets weaker or countries fight about trade, it can mess up how things are bought and sold all over the world. It's like a big chain reaction that travels really fast. You saw it happening with the war between Russia and Ukraine. When an economy grows, it's like a cake getting bigger, more resources and chances for everyone. This means better living conditions, more jobs, higher incomes, and easier access to stuff we need. Life gets better overall. But here's the twist. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes the good stuff doesn't reach everyone equally. Some people get more than others, leading to unfair differences in wealth and opportunities, exacerbating social inequalities. Now let's talk about what happens when economic growth goes wild without thinking about the future. Think of it like a car racing without brakes. One big problem is hurting our environment. When industries grow super fast, they can make lots of pollution, cut down trees, and use up precious resources. It might not look too bad at first, but over time, it messes up nature, causing things like climate change and animals to disappear forever. If this doesn't concern you, don't forget that humans are also animals. In financial systems, too much growth without a plan can create speculative bubbles and unstable markets. Remember the global financial crisis in 2008? It happens because people were lending money for homes as there was no tomorrow, and things got all messed up. When home prices dropped, it set off a chain reaction like dominoes falling, and lots of people lost jobs, homes, and the whole economy got busted. Economic growth driven by industries that exploit cheap labor can also lead to ethical concerns. In many developing countries, industries seeking cost efficient production often resort to low wages, poor working conditions, and limited labor rights. The ultra fast fashion and tech industries are prime examples, as they often rely on exploited labor in developing countries to manufacture their products at minimal cost. This results in human rights abuses, including child labor and unsafe working conditions, perpetuating cycles of poverty and exploitation. But hold on, there's more to uncover. The relentless pursuit of economic growth can sometimes overshadow critical aspects like healthcare and education. Take Greece's example from the early 2000s. Their excessive borrowing and focus on immediate gains led to severe debt crisis, forcing them to cut back on public services, leaving many people without their basic needs covered. The potential downside of excessive consumption and materialism driven by economic growth is also a big problem. The constant push for more consumption to fuel economic expansion can contribute to natural resource depletion, mental health problems, and societal issues. In richer countries, it's especially evident where the culture of consumerism has taken root. The relentless pursuit of possessions can leave people feeling empty and strained, often at the expense of their overall well-being and relationships. Remember, the things you want will end up owning you. The blend of economic growth and the butterfly effect shares a common principle. We might not know precisely how chaos and the economic will turn out, but we can learn some of the important lessons that make them tick. This understanding helps us to be ready for whatever the future brings, and at least in the case of Lorentz equations, this idea takes the shape of a butterfly. As always, keep up the good fight and be wealthy.